I made a video on the 22nd of October where I analyzed the first overall pick in the 2017 NBA draft, Markelle Fultz, and his college three-point shooting performance. In that video, I commented on his excellent shooting percentage in college and his mostly sound mechanics. However, since then, Fultz's career has seemingly fallen off track a bit, especially after he was pulled from the team to rest his injured right shoulder. Before the news came out confirming that Fultz had been injured since the start of the season, I simply couldn't believe that he was being played by the 76ers coaching staff, because if an injury was severely affecting his play at the time, which it was, then why would he still be playing significant minutes? This was the incorrect point that I made in that earlier video. Can you imagine if this had happened to another rookie, like Jason Tatum? I highly doubt that he'd still be playing 20 minutes a game for Celtics coach Brad Stevens. However, when it was confirmed to the general public by the team that Fultz was indeed injured, I had to reanalyze the situation. And now I've come to the conclusion that Fultz is in the unbelievably unfortunate situation of either A, having a jump shot form that has created a new shoulder injury through some kind of repetitive strain injury of some sort, or B, having sustained an injury in a practice or in a game. Fultz's shooting form has since aggravated that injury, such that it has never been able to fully recover. Either way, Fultz is clearly still in pain from that earlier injury, but new video footage from the 76ers practices has revealed that Fultz is still participating in drills, like one-on-one, and is continuing to shoot in those drills. The key sign of lingering pain here is how his jump shot, especially from three, still looks massively different to his originally smooth shooting form coming out of college. Here's some pre-draft footage of him shooting threes. It doesn't look disjointed at all, and although he leans over to the side a little bit, you can see that he is doing so far more now in the recent footage. I would guess that Fultz is leaning over to the side and also tilting his head over to that same side to alleviate tension in his shooting arm shoulder that is causing him discomfort. If he was fully healed and his shoulder was having no discomfort, then I don't see any reason why Fultz would continue to force his body into this strange position. The only answer I can think of is that he's still afraid of shoulder pain he's experiencing by shooting with his old technique, which is the technique that he found success with in college. Interestingly, his mid-range fadeaway shot still looks mostly like it did in college and in the summer league, suggesting that the pain or issue with his shoulder is only severe when he's taking long-range shots. So, what exactly can be done about this issue? I must say that the situation looks fairly depressing from the 76ers' perspective. Their number one overall pick is unable to play basketball effectively because a central part to his game and any other top player's game, their shooting, is causing him to be injured, or at least aggravating an existing injury. If shooting really is aggravating a long-term injury, then it seems that the most logical thing to do is to completely shut down all of Fultz's basketball-related activity and try to allow his shoulder to fully recover before allowing him to practice shooting again. This is easier said than done, however, because Philadelphia is fighting for a playoff spot this season, and I'm sure the coaches and staff envision Fultz contributing to a playoff appearance this year. If the latter is the case, however, and Fultz's shooting form actually caused him to be injured, then there is a serious issue at hand here, and it may well be the case that Fultz will have to go a complete reconstruction of his jump shot, or even some kind of shoulder surgery to align his shoulder in such a way that it can consistently carry out a shooting motion without getting injured. Something else that may have been happening behind the scenes is the coaching staff trying to work with Fultz to change his shooting motion. I think this is a likely scenario, because their head coach, Brett Brown, is a self-proclaimed shooting coach and has worked heavily on shooting with 76ers players in the past, like Nerlens Noel. I also noted some changes to Fultz's shooting form at the start of the season, namely involving an altered release timing at the free throw line, and also a new way of contacting the ball with his hands. However, whether these changes were instructed by the coaching staff or Fultz was simply implementing them himself to avoid shoulder pain is unclear, and we can only guess looking from the outside in. Given the past of Brett Brown, however, I find it hard to believe that nobody has tried to change Fultz's technique, and if they have, they've clearly done a terrible job at implementing it. Just looking at Fultz's body language in this one-on-one practice, there is absolutely no positive energy whatsoever, and he looks dejected after each wayward shot that he tosses up. Something has gone terribly wrong here, and it is any combination of Fultz's shoulder health, his mentality, and the Philadelphia coaching staff's effort to change Fultz's shot. Coaching the specifics of technique is one thing, but actually allowing a player to successfully implement those changes involves more than just X's and O's, but rather a healthy dialogue between the coach and the player so that they're both on the same page about the technique changes and the reasoning behind them. I'd hazard a guess and say that Fultz has not experienced such a process, given that he clearly has no trust in his long-range shot, and is possibly even embarrassed by how his shooting is currently. I don't believe for a second that Fultz has forgotten how to shoot with his old technique, because that would be the most natural way for him to shoot, which is why he had that technique the first decade or more of his basketball career. There simply has to be another reason why Fultz isn't returning to his old successful technique, and that must be shoulder pain, or the coaching staff, or both. At the end of the day, the outlook for the 76ers is not good. It seems unlikely that Fultz will return to being an elite shooter like he was in college. In fact, it seems unlikely right now that he will even be able to shoot at all from range, especially if his altered form is a result of lingering shoulder pain. If that is the case, then I don't see how Fultz projects to be a valuable piece for this Philadelphia team, at least not as valuable as you'd expect from a number 1 overall pick. Given the talent that the 76ers passed on, with Jason Tatum leading the NBA in three-point percentage and already contributing in a key starting role for the Boston Celtics, and rookies like Donovan Mitchell lighting up the league with their surprisingly elite play, Fultz is already trending to be a disappointment. Now, having said all this, I'm of course not wishing that Fultz continues to struggle at all. In fact, quite the opposite. I was a supporter of Fultz coming out of college, and I liked his size and athleticism, as well as his calm demeanor. Remember that he did put up 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists at Washington while shooting 48% from the floor and 41% from 3. If Fultz can somehow solve his shooting woes, then I believe that he will find success down the line. But the unfortunate reality is that, as of right now, Fultz appears to be unable to shoot a ball with any consistency beyond 10 feet, and that is not a desirable trait for a starting NBA point guard. Only time will tell whether Fultz's injury is so serious that it's affecting his jump shot, and if this injury heals, then he may well just return to being an elite shooter. Finally, if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe down below. If you want to find out more about me, then follow my new Instagram page, which I've left at the top of the description box. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.